All right, JD. Glad to get you on here.
Thanks for having me.
I know it's hot as shit, so probably won't stand here for too long. But yeah, we kind of met over the internet, which kind of seems to be like how that's how everybody's meeting each other nowadays.
Yep.
And we've talked a few times, kind of went over your story and everything. And so you're from Pennsylvania, and you've started a meeting center. I gotta like first of all, like besides the pod, that's amazing, man. I feel like I've heard at this point thousands of people, come up with like, oh, we should have sober dances here, like there should be a meeting place that only does this, or take away the rules and things like that. And for you to actually have stepped up and done it, in the middle of a pandemic when barely people can't even work, you found a place to be able to do it. So I commend you for that one.
Dude, and that's because of COVID though. Honestly, that's one thing COVID taught me is like I'm not gonna wait around for other people to make money on my ideas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm tired of like just sitting around like, oh, I wish I could do that. I wish I could do that, and that was like behavior I had in addiction. I wish I could because my money was tied up elsewhere.
Yeah.
But now that money's not, I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. Like I'm going for it.
Yeah.
Like,
I hate those the it must be nice people as well. When it's like the must be nice people are just afraid of doing the work that you got to do to be able to say it is nice.
Yeah, this is how much work goes into this. Like,
yeah,
someone
exactly.
said, like, I've had family challenge me, like, you're just gonna do a charity you're for full time now for your life. How is that gonna work? What are you trying to work only an hour a day? It's like, do you know how much work this is?
Yeah.
I'm there 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. What do you mean, like 1 hour a day? What do you think I do?
Yeah,
I mean, I just got so tired of the meetings thing though. Like I didn't have a meeting to go to.
Yeah.
And I'll even, just some history for anyone who's watching, but like I started out, I went to rehab with the sole purpose of being able to use cannabis in my recovery.
Right.
I went to a place called High Sobriety. It was in a documentary on Netflix that's not there anymore, Legend of 420. But they mentioned this place, High Sobriety, where you can go and learn how to use cannabis in a positive way and not, in a negative way. So for the first time after 10 years of using pills every day and drinking for 20 years, I actually considered rehab. And then the next day I had one of those days of sitting in the McDonald's parking lot for 6 hours waiting to meet my dude. You know what I mean? Just to get like, oh, I can't make it. And then finally I find somebody else. And then they're like, yay, I'll get them for you, but it's going to cost you one. So I'm buying 430s. I give one out right away. I do two because I've been sitting in the McDonald's for 8 hours with my dog. And then I'm driving back on the PA Turnpike with one. At this point, the last 2 years of my addiction, I had spent driving about 2 hours each way to Jersey from like Amish country in PA, 2 hours each way to get pills and then back 4 times a week. So like that was like the insanity of the last 2 years of the addiction was that drive 4 times a week.
Yeah.
Coming up with excuses with my family. Like, why are you driving there again? Weren't you just there 2 days ago? Like, I lived with my brother and my dad. We ran a company together. We were together all the time. And I always had to come up with an excuse 4 times a week for why I'm going to Jersey. So it gets exhausting, but I always have one. I went to a lot of Flyers games the one year because that was my excuse. Like, oh, I'm hitting a Flyers game. I'm going to the Flyers game. And I went to like 13 Flyers games that year because I use that excuse all the time.
That's not bad.
I love going to hockey games. So any excuse to go to a hockey game, I was going to take, and I was making good money that year. So I was affording my drug addiction and the Flyers games.
Yeah.
The crazy part, that was the only thing I was treating myself to besides drugs was going to Flyers games just because I love that shit. I love hockey. Hockey live, there's no sport better than hockey live. Like football, I don't like live. I think football sucks live. I like football on the TV, flipping channels where all the action is, like, red zone. Baseball, it's not fun live anymore because you're not drinking the whole entire day beforehand. At least I'm not. I haven't drank in years.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm tailgating for baseball anymore. I'd rather sit and enjoy the show. But hockey is that one sport that no matter what, like I love going to live.
Oh yeah,
I want
bro.
To
it's pretty dope. We live 30 minutes from like Little Caesars to where like the Red Wings play.
Brand new stadium, right?
Yeah, and then like 45 minutes from Toledo, and there's like a minor league team, the Walleye. Okay. So you can go there for like $12 and get like a glass seat, and like There's always fights, at least two.
Those are the best. The AHL games.
Yeah.
There's
Oh
always
yeah.
fights.
Yeah. So you're just around a bunch of people that are drinking, having fun. Like I don't drink, but
No,
everybody
yeah.
else is having fun, and so like it's just
the
a
energy.
party. Oh yeah. That's.
I actually, speaking of the AHL, one of my guests coming up is Riley Cote, who used to play for the Philadelphia Phantoms before the Phantoms moved. They used to be in Philly. Right. I grew up 10 minutes from Philly. So it was easy to go to. And back like in the mid 2000s, the same thing. $5 get you a hot dog, a soda, and a seat,
Right.
And this dude was one of their main fighters, but then he got into heroin and stuff like that, and didn't quite do anything in the NHL. He was an enforcer. But now he's a big advocate for CBD and getting off heroin. So I had talked to him, and we're trying to schedule something for him to be on my podcast about recovery, because I would love to hear like a hockey player's recount of what they went through. Yeah. And like, because you know how it is, I'm sure I can already picture it. Yep, I got really injured one of the years, so the doctor said, "Here's your Percocets," and then I was off to the races. I can already just put together the story already.
Yeah, I played hockey growing up, and like it's brutal. Like even just playing AAA.
It was my favorite sport to play, without a doubt. I played street hockey, not roller hockey. I played in New Jersey. Street hockey was huge. That's where I grew up. I grew up 10 minutes from Philadelphia in South Jersey, and that's where street hockey was huge for us. So all of us played. There was leagues in all the towns and everything. That was by far the best sport to play, in my opinion.
Oh yeah. It's not just a sport. Hockey creates a community, and like once you leave it, you miss it.
It's the only time when you watch, like I get all like worked up whenever I watch like the players afterwards. They're always saying we. It's never I did this or I did that. It's we. Hockey is a we sport. Everything else is about self accolades in football. Like, oh yeah, I rushed for this, or I ran for this, and I scored this, and I. But when you're talking to a hockey player, it's and you'll hear it now from now on. You're never going to hear a hockey player one time say I.
Yeah.
An NHL player will always say we in a press conference. And I appreciate that so much, because they care so much about it. Is a we sport. It is a we game. And I myself didn't do anything. They have that humility and that humbleness about them that an addict can appreciate.
Yeah, definitely.
But
you grew up in South Jersey. Is that where you started using? Like, is that kind of like where everything go? Or because you're in Pennsylvania?
That was my breeding ground.
Is it? Right.
Yeah, I've moved 30 times, 5 states in 15 years. In addiction, I moved 27 times in 12 years.
Jesus.
And 4 states.
Yeah,
and not even close states. North Carolina, Massachusetts, Jersey, Pennsylvania. You know what I mean? Like Jersey and PA, but still it was an hour and a half from each other where I was moving. And then Massachusetts was up in Plymouth, but I lived all over Massachusetts. And North Carolina was all the way down in Durham. Like I was like right around the corner from Duke University.
Okay.
But yeah, I've lived all over. I kept moving because I kept thinking, well, if I leave, then I'll stop doing pills. And then I didn't realize that I was going with me still.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I still had other things I had to work on. Like I moved to North Carolina after my fiance killed herself. And I just need to get out of Jersey. And I haven't lived in Jersey since she committed suicide because I can't. It's too toxic for me now. Like all I know is getting high and my first serious relationship with my best friend. So I don't like even being in Jersey now. But whenever I went back, it was to get high or go to funerals now. Now it's to go back to go to funerals.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we got to go to a lot of those.
Yeah. And, the first one I had to go back for was right after my 6th month. My buddy, we were backyard neighbors growing up. In Jersey, everyone's on top of each other where we lived. Yeah. So we were backyard neighbors for 12 years. And we both got sober. Well, we both went to rehab at the same time. March, April. I went late April. He went early April. And in March, he went to Florida. I went to California. But we talked all the time on the phone about being in recovery because he was always awake late and I was 3-hour time difference. And then we both came back around the same time. The only difference is he relapsed on Halloween. And when he relapsed, he died. That's how it is now because they're putting fentanyl in pills. They're putting fentanyl. They're even putting fentanyl in meth.
Yeah, it's in Coke and it doesn't make sense. I don't know. It's in everything, man.
Yeah, I was talking to I have I call him a sponsee. He asked me to help him with the
Yeah.
steps, even though we're not in AA and
Like a
our meetings.
mentor type thing.
Yeah, like a
Yeah.
mentor. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we're actually going through the steps through Russell Brand's book.
Okay. Yeah.
Russell
Yeah.
Brand, that English comedian, he has his own book called
Yeah.
Recovery, and it breaks down the big book. So we've been going over it that way instead, just to make it more fun. But he started using meth when he was a mid teenager, like 15. He started drinking at 8. He grew up in the pagans, like his dad and shit, like growing up in the pagans, all around
Right.
meth, like biker meth, crank, they called it. And it's huge in rural PA where we live. And he's been nonstop using. He has 3 weeks sober now. It's the most time since he was 12. Like sober.
Yeah.
He just got a Vivitrol shot last week. I took him to get his Vivitrol shot, and he was like, yeah, and I can't drink anymore because of this. And I was like, bro, you can't even do meth anymore.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, I don't want to do meth. And I was like, no, dude, like think about it. When you were doing meth, you were building a tolerance to fentanyl. You had fentanyl in your meth. So you built a tolerance to it. If you were to relapse, yeah, usually meth doesn't show up with Vivitrol and you're good to do meth. But all the meth around here has fentanyl in it, which is an opioid, which Vivitrol will block and make you very sick. Not only that, you haven't done meth in a month and a half now. So that much fentanyl will put you in the ground because you don't have a tolerance to it anymore. And he was like, holy shit. I didn't even realize that. Like, he knew he couldn't drink, but he was an alcoholic first. And that's why he's like, I need the Vivitrol shot because like he hasn't done meth in a month and a half, but he drank on the 4th of July and he didn't want to drink anymore. So he's doing that instead now. So I was like, dude, like if you relapse, that's what's going to happen, bro. Like you don't have any tolerance to fentanyl anymore. You were doing that shit every day. And he was like, I didn't even like think about that. And then like I kind of smiled in my head because my therapist early on told me that I was a master manipulator. And she said, but now you need to use your powers for good. She was like, I'm not telling you to stop manipulating people. I'm saying to do that to help them and not be self-service, not be self-serving when you're manipulating. Be manipulating so somebody can help themselves. So you don't have to help them.
Right. Yeah. Some of that using behavior for good.
Yeah. She was like, this way you're not taking something away that you enjoy doing I said I enjoy doing. I was like, I'm a salesman. I call it being a salesman. She goes, yeah, but it's called manipulating. And I was like, I guess so. So whichever way you want to spin it, Doc.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm still even friends with my old therapist from like rehab. Like she's supposed to be on my show soon too, just to talk. I was like, hey, I can't get Dr. Drew. Will you do my show? Dr. Nice. Drew's not answering me back.
So how did you get into this? Like, so like you started the process, going through rehab and everything, and like you were using in Jersey, but how did you start using to begin with? Because like when the little that we did talk, you weren't using like, Vicodin or like the 5 milligram.
Right
yeah, like you jumped into the 30s. Like how do you even
so what had happened was I was a big drinker and a big partier for a long time. 11 years old, I started partying, just drinking with my friends, watching The Outsiders. That's what we thought was a cool Saturday night in 5th grade. And then
what are you drinking in 5th grade?
Captain and Coke was my first ever drink.
Oh damn! All right.
Yep.
Okay. I just figured like because
I'm a 0 to 100 guy, bro.
Yeah, like because like mine was like somebody. I was like really young. They gave me a sip of a Zima.
I was gonna say Zima, yeah.
Yeah, one of those, and then I think I hated it, and then I stole a beer from my buddy's dad's like beer fridge in the basement, and that tasted like shit too. So
yeah, I got lucky that my parents had a good selection in their basement, like from parties. My parents they're not drinkers, but they're the ones that when you go there for a party, they have a giant selection that you can make. You know what I mean? My dad's making kamikazes. They know how to party, but they don't drink at all unless they're throwing a party. And that's still how it is. When I go there, there's bottles everywhere, but because they know how to throw a party. That's always been my family's MO is throwing a party. Even me, like I was throwing parties when they would go away because I heard the stories they told me about throwing parties. I'm like, well, if you guys are doing it, I'm going to do it and then put it back in your face when you catch me. So I did that. But when I was 21, myself and four of my best friends, we all turned 21 within 2 weeks of each other. So we went hard. Like, I mean, hard. We were at the bar 5-6 nights a week, just going hard, partying, doing a lot of reckless shit. Taking pills here and there. If I was at the bars, it was like, hey, I got some Xanax, right down the hatch, whatever. I'm blacking out that night. Percocets, 10s, just here and there. Somebody had some, we called them bananas. Somebody had some bananas at the bar. Yeah, I'll take one. I just throw it down. It's nothing. I never even felt the high.
Why a banana?
They were the yellow thin ones. There was the fat yellow ones that we called school buses.
Oh, okay.
So the Perc 10s, the actual Percocet ones, not the oxycodone ones, the hydro, whatever.
Right.
The actual Percocet, the 10 milligram ones, they came in two sizes. There was the skinny ones we call bananas, then the oblong ones that were fatter that we called school buses. But that's how we always knew what our dealer had was, hey, you got bananas or school buses or nothing. And usually we couldn't snort them though. So I'll get to that, So 21, we're going hard, occasionally doing pills, not much. Like even where I did them consecutively, so random, once a month maybe. And then October rolled around. There was like everyone was going to the bar, and I was just so tired of it. And my buddy was hanging out before he was going out, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I got some 10s on me if you want some 10s." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll take 2. Like I'm not going out tonight, but I want to relax." And for some reason, that specific night, I got so high. Like I was off. You know what I mean? It was that high, that aha moment. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? Like I was like, wow, I met the love of my life. You know what I mean? Like I consider painkillers my first love. Seriously, like that was my relationship first. And I was like, because I'm like, I'll do anything for you. You say the same shit to your drug of choice that you would to a relationship. I'll do anything for you. I'll move mountains for you. Whatever it takes to have you and keep you, I'm going to do. And that was a 10-year relationship that started that night, and within a month, we would have our dude. He was this kind of guy. He passed recently from liver failure because he was an alcoholic. He was at the bar every day until like 6 p.m. That was everyone knew Lou was there. Just go. And we would go and just grab some 10s and then go home. And then we're like, oh, what if we snort these? It's 2008. So we couldn't even Google stuff as easy as you can today.
Yeah.
So there was so much, Tylenol, acetaminophen, whatever they put, the fillers in the Percocets. We're like, oh, this is gross. I mentioned it to my buddy that has them. He goes, oh, why didn't you tell me? And he pulled out another bag of small blue ones. He goes, these are only $20 and they're 30 milligrams and you can sniff them. I'm like, I'll take a lot of them, because I'd rather that's like getting the 10 milligrams free every time. Because again, $20 back then is what they cost. Now they're like $1 per milligram or more, probably. I don't know. It's been years.
Yeah.
But at the time they were $20 and they were small blue ones. And they, the M30s, A215s, the V, we called them V cuts. We all had nicknames for all of them.
I do remember there's like that little thing on the end of
they made me break out every single time. Every time I did them, my face broke out in hives when I had that specific brand. And what's funny is my blood pressure is the exact same brand, so I get the V's on them now, and I'm like, son of a bitch. Like it brings me back. I can't even look at my pills anymore. I just gotta grab it and take it, because if I look at it too long, I'm reminded of like those pills.
Yeah.
But like we called them Johns in Philly, JAWNS. That was like the term for everything. If you were to Google Johns, there's a lot of like Philly thing. It's a term for anything, but we used it for pills. But it was a way to say, hey, you have any J's, in a text message that doesn't sound like I'm asking you for Percocets or pills. I'm saying J's. And but yeah, and within a month I had to start selling them because I needed to make money to buy them, because again, I would do anything for them. So within a month I was selling them, and I knew right away I was an addict. Not right away, but within a month. By the time I started selling them, I came to terms with myself. I had one of those conversations a month in, like, I love this. I want this. I want it every day. However, I'm in control of this. And if I do heroin, I'm going to lose control. So the rule is you can do these every day, just never do heroin. And I only came close to doing heroin once because that's how much I loved my lady.
So did it come in? Because I know like for me, where our stories are very similar. I didn't realize that I was addicted to anything until I had to leave my source. I moved like 5 hours away for like I was traveling as like a bartender. Every summer I would just find the party, whether it's Vegas, the Grand Canyon, different islands around the country. And the first time I left after I had started using, I thought I had the flu. And it took a couple times, and then I found a guy and then he ran out and then it happened again. So I didn't even know what detox was. Did you have to do that or were you just in it?
I physically and mentally knew I was addicted really quickly. What's funny is I withdrew for the first time the previous 4th of July. We had partied really hard that week in Massachusetts, visiting my family, I think. No, I forget. Either way, we partied really hard and I did a lot. Oh, we went to Canada. We were going to Canada for my friend's 21st birthday.
Oh, Windsor?
And we were going to Niagara Falls, Canada.
Oh, okay.
Because my friend was turning 21 on a Monday. And he was all butthurt that we all turned 21 together and we got to go out and no one's going to want to go out on his birthday on a Sunday night, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right, well, let's go to Niagara Falls then, dude. We'll party all weekend because you'll be legal and we'll come home Monday and then you'll be legal. So that's what we did. But my friend just got like a script. And so he's like, we got to go through these before we cross the border. So we like did a bunch. And then like 3 days later, I didn't even know it. I was back to work. And like I had to go home because I was so sick and I didn't know why I was so sick. And that was the first time that I ever withdrew. And I didn't know I was withdrawing until a year later when I had withdrawals again to know, oh, that's what that was that time. It was one of those things. But like, no, I physically knew I needed this every single day or what would happen to me, And the worst part was like I felt responsible for somebody's death early on. Like I was when I started selling them again kind of thing. And then I was told by somebody, hey, my brother's out of rehab. You can't sell to him. I'm like, okay. And then of course the brother calls me and is like, hey, I'm looking. I'm like, sorry, dude, but like I can't sell to you. I was told not to. And he was like, oh, well, I already relapsed, so it's no big deal. I was like, oh, okay. And then that just like that, I'm talked into it. I don't even know to this day if that was true or not. I'm going to tell myself it was. But either way, I sold to him. And I didn't hear from him again. 2 weeks later, he got arrested and hung himself in jail with his shoelaces. So, and I was like, oh shit, did I do that? That Steve Urkel moment, but I try not to like think about it too much because obviously like that could really fuck up my mind because again, we're all adults and we made decisions and, he told me one thing and I still probably shouldn't have, but either way I did. And he wasn't going to find it for me. He was going to go into Camden because that's what we did. We lived 2 miles from Camden, New Jersey.
Right.
So everyone went into Camden to pick up. Like I know people that drive from my area, Pennsylvania, 2 hours to go to Camden to pick up because it's the port and that's where all the good shit comes in. So, I mean, Camden's one of the worst cities. Like it's like Camden and Detroit are neck and neck every year. With like cities with crime rates and all that kind of stuff.
Really?
Yeah, Camden's like always in the top 5.
I was under the assumption that Camden was like a college town.
There's a Rutgers Camden, but it's like
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
There's a Rutgers Camden, but yeah, it is not like safe. Like they fired the police a couple years ago. Like I mean straight up, like the police, there's no more police in Camden because of all the corruption. And now they have the county oversee Camden, and you can only be in there for 2 years, and then you have to get moved to a smaller town because they don't want anyone to stay there for too long to have more corruption in town. Like that's how bad it is in town with Camden. That they had to fire the entire police. That's what it's bad. So I used to go buy drugs there all the time. That's where we went. There's a lot of times that I've had to take people to trap houses and sets. We called them sets. It's the projects. And, right. Everyone has a set where it's a trap house, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, drugs run rampant around there. So it wasn't hard for me to get high all the time or sell. I had plenty of clientele. My clientele was always like suburban kids I grew up with, that didn't want to go to Camden or talk to people higher up than me. So I had plenty of people to sell to. And all the times I moved around, I always made sure my dealers were taken care of, but new people to have as salesmen.
You were kind of like the middleman.
Yeah. Yeah. I had really good relationships with my higher ups too. Like the people I was dealing for didn't do drugs. They were businessmen. You know what I mean? Like they were straight and wanted to make money. And I was good at having those friendships with them where I almost like, I'm told now I was manipulating them to be my friend. But no, I was just friendly with them. I would talk to them about sports, movies, whatever, because I'm talking to them every day. That's what happens when you talk to somebody every day. You talk about other shit. So I got to be friendly with all these guys. And then so they would always like spot me. Whenever I was short money, we would make deals. I found shady doctors to go to. So they would pay for my doctor visits and all that kind of stuff. I was close with all these people. That's why I could go for so long without doing dope. Like, think about it. I went 9.5 years of doing like 6 to 10 30s a day and never had to do heroin once. I got close one time when I was at work, and another guy, I was working retail. Another guy I worked with, he did heroin. Like, we knew each other, we're high all the time, and he did heroin. And he was like, dude, you're withdrawing really bad right now. I was like, yeah, no shit, dude. Like, I know. He's like, well, I got like some on me right now. You can go in the bathroom and you do a line. You're going to feel a lot better. And I'm like, let me wait and see, what's going on. And I'm texting my guy, come on, dude, come on. When you coming? Because he would come to my work and pretend like he was buying stuff, and I would buy him off him. And so he wasn't answering me. I'm like, all right, whatever. I'll go do it. And then as I'm like walking to the bathroom with it, I get a text like, hey, I'll be there in about a half an hour. Thank God. I was like, here's your bag, bro. Thank you anyway. Dude's on his way. So that was the closest I got to like sniffing heroin.
Yeah.
Besides that, it was always pills, like, and a lot of it. That's what I wanted. I would wait days if I had to. I skipped out on a free trip to Scotland because I knew I wouldn't be able to make it withdrawing there. I got a free 10-day trip to Scotland. There's no way I was going to that.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah, travel's rough, but realizing that you miss out on like a badass trip going to Scotland's dope.
Yeah, like my family, they had a great time. They did everything that you'd want to do over there. My mom knows how to plan a trip. She's like a fucking pro at it. So,
yeah.
But yeah, and I was like, I'm just going to stay back and watch the dogs and take care of the business. That was like my excuse.
Yeah.
But no, I had a free trip if I wanted it, but I chose to watch the dogs and just get high.
Yeah.
Watch the dogs and get high.
So
that worked.
And you said this went on for how long that you were like using like consistently for?
9.5 years.
9.5 years? Yeah. Jesus. And what made you want to get sober?
That night that I was saying about watching that documentary, High Sobriety. Yeah. And then I was driving the next day back, and I bought 4. I had to give 1 to the dude.
Yeah.
And then I had 2 for myself that I did right away because I was hurting so bad. So now I'm doing a 2-hour drive back on the PA Turnpike at 8 o'clock at night after sitting for 8 hours with 1 pill on me. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I'm like 31 and a half at the time, like almost 32. Like, what the hell am I doing? Like, my dog's staring at me like, I don't know, man, like in the back seat. So I just Googled high sobriety, Saturday night, and 5 o'clock on a Saturday night, the dude answered his time, talked to me for 2 hours on the phone.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And after that, he was like, yeah, like, I'll pay for the flight, get out here Wednesday.
Really?
So, yep. And I was out there at Wednesday. I've been sober. I drank a little bit here and there eventually, but still, like, I haven't touched pills.
How did, yeah, because I remember, like, when I went to rehab, it was really weird. Like, I was just, like, holed up, in, like, a small bedroom, didn't really leave anything, going through hell. And I was watching, like, Netflix, and there's just random TV shows and shit. But I started calling rehabs out in California because I had no idea what I was doing. But they were like astronomically overpriced. I mean, some of them were like 80, 100,000, like beyond. Yeah. So how do you go from like being on the phone for 2 hours to somebody buying your plane ticket and ended up in like what sounds like a pretty sweet rehab in California?
Yeah, I ended up insurance covered everything except for So first I went into a treatment for 28 days, with everybody. Cannabis is not involved whatsoever. The one company that I went to has like 2 sober houses and a treatment center, and they run the IOP. So that's important to know for insurance, because my first 30 days were in detox, in the residential rehab,
Right.
where we had group meetings there, and nurses are there. You do your vitals 3 times a day, the whole 9. And then I did 29 days in there, and then my insurance is like, all right, he's good, get him out of there, because that's what it depends on, your insurance. Because then I went to my sober living, which was the high sobriety where you're allowed to use cannabis. So insurance can't cover that because it's cannabis related. So insurance covered my IOP that I was going to, and then I had to just pay them rent $1,500 a month to stay there in the sober house, which isn't bad for living in LA where we were living.
Oh yeah, no.
And food was included 3 times a day. They had staff that was always there to give us rides and all that kind of stuff to meetings. So $1,500 isn't that bad. So luckily my dad footed the bill for that for me for 4 months while I was there. And yeah, besides that, dude, it was just like, I just need money for cigarettes. It was LA. There's 250 meetings a week. I was going to 4 or 5 meetings a day, and I did 250 in 90. My first 90 days, I did 250 meetings.
Jesus.
And that's including only 30 in my first 30. So I did about 220 in my last 60 of my 90 days.
Yeah.
That's how many meetings I was going to every day. Because like I wasn't into it at first, but the rehab was smart, because the only time we left the house was to go to a meeting outside the house. So that's the only time my first 30 days I was able to like smoke cigarettes and talk to other people besides people in my house, was at these meetings. And of course, finally, one of them, I heard somebody talking that like caught my attention, that sounded like me. His story was like mine. And we had he was talking about pills and AA. And I was like, what is going on? Like, that's allowed? And like, he literally spoke to me. And now we're still good friends to this day, because afterwards I'm like, dude, like, I want what you have. How do I be friends with you? Like, how do I learn this? And he didn't even sponsor me. He just like would always help me out, answer questions, and we're still friends. Somebody else ended up sponsoring me, took me through the steps. He was like, I'm still working on my own steps. I don't want to take anybody else yet. I'm like, that's fine. I was like, I just want to be friends with somebody that's like me that got sober. So, and we're still friends. But yeah, I fell in love with relating to people. It's easy to relate out, but it's so easy to relate in when you're in meetings and you want to. So I'd find any way to relate to anybody that was talking, whether there were 90 and a female. Like there was a 40-year-old stripper, a 10-year sobriety who was still stripping. I found ways to relate to her. You know what I mean? I didn't care. I was going to find a way to relate and just take something from your story. And so I just got so much from the meetings. And I come back to Pennsylvania and they're like, yeah, we don't want you talking about cannabis. I'm like, but it's saving my life. They're like, yeah, well, just don't mention it. And don't mention pills either. Just say alcohol instead. I'm like, this is an honest program. You want me to run an honest program and just lie? It's not lying. It's just saying things differently. I'm like, what? That's lying. I'm trying to just be honest. If I have to think about the words that I'm saying so that I can change words around to appease you, that means I'm lying. No matter which way you want to cut it up, I'm lying. We're just saying it's not going to look good. And then by my year, they wouldn't even give me a year chip. They said, stop coming or stop talking. We're serious. And I said, all right, I'm going to stop coming because you're not going to get me to stop talking. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird. So like
I got my 1-year chips from LA. Luckily, I went there for my 1-year exact anniversary. I wanted to be there with those people. And then I came back and I went to go get my chip at my home group. And they're like, yeah, no.
Dude, that's weird.
Right, see ya.
So up here, it's the cannabis thing is very prevalent to where like even so we live in Ann Arbor. And
you guys are recreational now, even there.
Yeah. So we have like Hash Bash and everything. Ann Arbor is like huge for weed, but when you're in like the recovery communities around here, you're still not allowed to. And so I did rehab, but I did like NA, like Narcotics Anonymous, and just because it was where the uncool kids went. It was like the smaller group, so I wanted to try that one because I'm always different than everybody. And so but even like you're not allowed to say that. Like you can go to AA meetings, but it's full of like uh people that you would traditionally think are in NA. Like they're talking about pills and everything, but yet they're saying sober and drinking and these things. And it's that terminology that threw me off, because it was hard for me to go to a meeting and have somebody sit there and try to tell me that, you know, smoking weed is bad for you while they're puffing on 3 cigarettes in 10 minutes before a meeting and chugging half a gallon of coffee. Like those are the two most addictive substances allowed. And yet, because one book that only works because it says it works, statistically, it does not work. And so, but yet they say it works. Like prove it, and you can't. And there's this
If you work it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. If you work it, and like, and there's a lot of truth to that. Like, I don't want to like discredit it by any means, but then you know, there's like
It's a book written in 1935.
Yeah, by a guy on acid.
And by a guy that was so miserable. By 1950, he had to sit down and write the 12 and 12. That's why he wrote the 12 and 12.
Yeah.
He wrote the 12 and 12 15 years after he wrote the big book. And it was only because he was so depressed in sobriety that he needed something to give him some kind of energy towards being sober again. That's how the 12 and 12 was written, was based out of him just being miserable in sobriety 15 years after writing the big book.
Yeah, and like, not to discredit AA by any means, because a lot of people listen to this are going to be in AA. It's amazing for those that work, but you do get that overlap. There's almost like that change in guard, to where like you get those people that you're not allowed to say certain things, and then you get newer people like you know, like me, like just trying to stay alive. Does it really matter what I did and where I'm at? I feel like I'm in the right place, and you're getting pushed away.
I use the steps still every day. I still use, like, every time I catch a resentment, I'm doing a 4-step on it. Like, still to this day.
Like actively writing it out and everything?
No, I won't write it out. Like,
right.
I'll do it while I drive. I usually do my 4 steps while I'm driving. I won't put music on. I'll put the windows down, light up a smoke. Usually I put smoke, then the windows down. But while I'm driving, I'll think about, all right, what's the resentment? All right, why do I even care? Where am I in it? Once I get to where am I, then I'm completely letting it go, because you are inside of all your resentments. Obviously, we know that anyone who's been through the steps knows that you can find yourself in any resentment. So once you do find yourself in the resentment and you accept it, it's literally, you're letting that shit go. And it's not weighing on you. You're not dwelling on it. You're not upset by it. It doesn't have any control over you or power over you. So like, I still do a 4th step whenever I catch one. Like, that's right away. You know, I'm still working through my 9th step. You know, I still pray and meditate every day. I don't pray the same way everybody prays. I don't do the Our Father. Like, Bill Murray is my higher power. You know what I mean? Like, I don't.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Yep. Like Groundhog Day, Bill Murray?
Yep. Yeah, actually, awesome. No, even younger than Groundhog Day, Bill Murray, though. Like, I have in my office a picture my friend painted me that I met in AA. She's an artist, and she painted me on canvas Bill Murray as Jesus with like his hands in the air, like in the clouds. Yeah. But it's Bill Murray's face on it instead of Jesus, because she knew he was my higher power. So, yeah, I mean, seriously, he's been my higher power since, like, I can remember, since I picked one. I'm Catholic, born and raised, and I didn't want to call him God. I wasn't cool with that. Like, I had been done with Catholicism. Like, I had been done since I was 16 with Catholicism. So I didn't want to do, you know, Our Father and any of that kind of stuff, and, you know, sign of the cross. So when I pray, I talk out loud, and then I shut up and I listen. That's my meditating. You know, they always say you pray is manifesting, putting it out there, and meditation's listening to what your questions are, hearing the answers to your questions that you're putting out there. That's how I pray and meditate, is I put shit out there and then I wait to hear the answers. And just putting it out there makes it real, and then shutting up and listen is how you can really hear things and process them, because it's your subconscious speaking. That little voice that usually you don't want to listen to is the one you need to listen to then. That little voice to me is Bill Murray, and it's in Caddyshack, and he's on the 1918th green.
I got him. Is like, in that mental image, is there a gopher like shaking his ass a little bit?
That gopher was the pills that I was chasing. That first high. People say you chase a dragon. I'm chasing that gopher.
That's awesome. So like I gotta assume that's how you go from like California rehab, you come back and like I'm assuming there's some distaste in AA because they kind of shoved you away so you can't come here, and now you got your own shit. How do you like that has been said a million times and no one does it? What
So
like, yeah.
yeah, when I had moved then from the area I was in Hershey area first.
Okay.
That's where I was.
Michigan
And
hates that city.
yeah,
Yeah, well,
why?
so we get the so like we're surrounded by the lakes and the waters and everything, and so it's publicly known that Pennsylvania takes a lot of water from Michigan and they don't pay for it. And so it's all like the pipelines and then the gas prices and everything because Michigan's ridiculous for gas prices.
I remember.
And
Yeah.
so you can get a lot of people saying that it's because of Hershey. They're like the water and the gas and everything. So
That's funny. Well,
yeah.
I didn't. I liked it because it smelled like chocolate, and then I was out of there. I ended up. My wife lived about an hour north in the middle of the mountains, and so that's
Okay.
where she has a kid from her first marriage. So it was just easier for me to uproot than her.
Mhm.
So I came up here, and it's a really conservative area. Like, I mean, not to get into politics because I don't want to, but it was like a 70-30 red blue split last election. That's how like conservative this area is. And I was saying to her, she was an alcoholic self admittedly, and then she had slowed down a lot. And then I had started here and there again. At all my 13 month of my sobriety being clean, I bought a 6-pack of Twisted Tea. And I said, fuck them. I drank 4 and I poured 2 out of spite because they said I wouldn't be able to pour a drink out. You know what I mean? And then, yeah, it was one of those.
Yeah.
And I drank here and there. Like, I would be at my parents' house swimming. I would have some Twisted Teas, and it wasn't ever alcoholically. It was here and there, have a couple and move on. And then February 28th of last year, 2020, I don't know why, but I killed a bottle of Jack. Woke up the next day, hungover as shit. And I said to her, well, I'm done drinking again because the whole point was not to be hungover. And I don't want to be hungover. Like, I'm done with this shit. She was like, I'll quit with you. So, and plus we figured 229 is a cool sober date because it's leap day. You know what I mean? Like, you only get a sober birthday every 4 years now. But I said, I wish we could go to a meeting. Like, I love going to meetings. And she was like, yeah, I don't want to go to AA because like her dad's got like 30 years. He's an old head. You know what I mean? He's just old timer, what they call him.
Yeah.
They're the same in every single place you go.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't want to go. And I was like, well, I know I want to go and I want to talk about like cannabis. We're both medical patients. We both have a medical marijuana card. We use it responsibly. And I was like, I wish we could just start our own, one of those. And she's like, well, where could we? And then I was like, there's a lot of empty buildings around here. And then COVID hit 2 weeks later. And we're like, oh, well, I'm high risk. We're not going to do that right now. Like, I was sick at the time. My gallbladder wasn't even functioning, but they thought it was a tumor. So that was like high risk for COVID. So we weren't going out at all and just planning to do like this. Like, it was going to be actually a comedy club. It was going to be a comedy club on the top, and the bottom floor was going to be a metaphysical shop because she's into crystals and witchcraft and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And we were going to do meetings whenever we weren't doing comedy shows out of the comedy club. And then the bank, would only give me so much. So we couldn't afford to do both. So I was like, well, they're going to give us $7,000. So we have our stimulus money. Let's get a place and just do the nonprofit for now. And so we got a great place on an old building. Like, it's on a historical society. That's how old it is. And it used to be the newspaper around here. The local newspaper used to be in there in 1900. We still have original equipment in the basement from 1900 from the paper.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, like, it's a really old building. It's cool as shit. And we could have got a building that was like move-in ready, and it was like the same amount of money every month. However, the other building, it's huge, but we can grow into that building. The other building we were going to grow out of with it really fast.
Right.
So I was like, I'd rather spend the same amount of money and grow in and have to fix the building up. So we took the really old building instead that had so much work to be done. But the landlord liked what we were doing. It's been empty for a decade, that building. and he let us move in for free and let us move in with no down payment and the first month for free. And we didn't have to start paying until we were already there for a month, and only $500 a month. So I got a good deal out of that one. That was a big victory.
Yeah.
So the other place is like, all right, $1,100 to move in, then $550 a month. And then I talked to this guy to tell him what we're doing. I was like, you know, it has a lot of work that needs to be done on your side, so we're probably going to go the other way. But unless you can throw me a really good deal, I'll probably take it, to be honest. He was like, how about you move in right now, no money down, and then give me your first month rent in July? And I'm like, it's June 2nd. He's like, yep, and rent's due July 1st, $500. You don't have to pay me anything. Here's your key. So let's do it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I took that deal instead.
Yeah,
I'd rather
for
get the
sure.
historical building that, you know, we could figure out and like get grants for and all that. You know, we have a room that's a meditation room that my wife does meditations out of every day at 10:15. People
Okay.
come in, they do a guided meditation and shit. We even have a room that we're fixing up as a kid's room. I have my entire podcast studio in the one room, which the only reason I'm not recording it now is because we don't have internet there yet. And I ran out of hotspot data on my phone from recording other podcasts. So, but yeah, and then we have our giant meeting room that's like huge. There's probably on average 10, 15 people there, but we only have 20 seats on purpose because we don't want more than 20 people there for a meeting. We'd rather the meeting stay smaller because you know how it is. You go to a large meeting, people don't even want to talk. They're afraid to talk. They, you know, it's overwhelming for people, as opposed to meetings that are like 10 people. You get the most out of. Everyone's interacting together. You feel
How
more
do you
in
go
it
about turning people away?
We haven't had to yet.
Okay.
But when it happens, if it happens, we have 4 meetings a day. We have like 4 different meetings a day, 5 different meetings on weekends. So it's like, well, you can catch the next one. You know what I mean? Like literally, I don't see it happening because we are like in a small town still. Like our town is mostly overtaken by the college here that has 8,000 students. And then the town has like 7,000 people, you know? So
Yeah.
it's, you know, yeah. We haven't had it happen. I don't foresee it happening. You know, I think people will just, if they want to stand, they can stand, but it's on purpose that there's only 18 seats.
Yeah. So
You
what are you
know?
doing for literature and everything? Because I know like what's your format? Like, are you just doing like open talk style meetings
It's a
or
lot of open talk, yeah, because they're all different things, and we're still trying to figure out who likes what. Like, what's today, Thursday?
yeah.
So tonight is the LGBTQ plus and the LGBTQ plus youth meetings. So you know those meetings are more open because it's like, oh, I want to talk about the HRT, like how does that work? And somebody who else is transitioning might have questions about HRT, and they can talk to each other about it, like more in an open forum, like you know, whenever, because there's, you know, a few different people that came in so far that are, you know, trans. So, but they're still not sure how to do it. So they can talk to each other about it in a safe environment. We lock the doors for them so nobody random can just walk in, and everyone can feel safe about what they're talking about and, you know, information being shared.
Right.
So, but like, what's it? Friday nights are for people that are doing harm reduction, like tapering. Because every night we have a different like theme meeting at 6:30. So we have that kind of thing, and then like there's a meeting for people that have COVID anxiety. There's a meeting for people that have trauma, you know, specific trauma they want to talk about and talk, you know. Then we have the abstinence meeting, which is kind of like AA. Then there's the medical marijuana meeting for anyone who's a cannabis patient to come in and talk about, you know, the program and why they use what and how they use it. Like, I don't smoke flower. I don't smoke anything. My wife does, and she uses it in moderation and to microdose, and I use RSO capsules to microdose.
Mm-hmm.
So like everyone has different things. People don't even know what RSO is. So just a way to like talk about our medicine in an open environment, you know, that's safe. So we have a lot of different things. Plus, we have mental health check-ins twice a day, 9 a.m. and 8 p.m. You can literally open how was your day? You know, anything you want to talk about, whether it's urges from addiction or, you know, their special needs. There's people like with ASD, Asperger's, that will come in there that, you know, had a rough day. They want to talk about it, you know. Good.
Yeah, so you're kind of like offering like the mental health check-ins. It sounds like it's almost just like a free like therapy. I
Group
mean, because
therapy.
yeah, is that kind of like what your
Yeah,
aim was? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. And I've openly told people we are not professionals. You
Yeah.
know, we tell everybody that, listen, we are just people that are just fucked up and have experience.
Oh, yeah.
You
And
know,
that's all you should
so and
need.
it's all the because somebody actually challenged me on Facebook. They're like, "What are your qualifications for running this? What did you go to school for?" And I'm like, "Have you ever been to an AA meeting?" Because I don't think you have. Because the only qualification to run an AA meeting is to be an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Same with NA. The only qualification is to be an addict. There's
Yeah.
no qualifications. As long as I'm upfront and honest about that, I'm telling everybody I did not go to school for this, but I spent 10 years in addiction. And also, I've been engaged with somebody who was bipolar, schizophrenic, and now married to somebody who is bipolar. So I have a lot of experience in mental health and being around it and how we talk to and communicate to each other. And my wife, obviously, she's an alcoholic, so she has experience with that, and she has experience with mental illness because she has experienced living around it and having it.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
think the big thing from that is like just outsiders. And I mean outsiders as like a person that's not going to traditionally go to like your
any
meetings.
yeah, the guy
And
was from
they're
Arizona, dude. He was
yeah.
2,000 miles away talking shit.
Yeah, those people, I feel like they just want to have a voice. You know, they just want to kind of like butt in and make it seem like you're not doing what they would do, or that there's supposed to be somebody else in charge that has paperwork backing them. When in reality, it sounds like you just tied up your bootstraps and hit the ground, and you don't have like you're just doing whatever you can do to help people. And unfortunately, those are the scenarios to where people try to overstep, and because it's not formalized, because it's not this and it's not that, it prevents other people from actually taking those steps, which sucks, and those people need to shut up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see them doing it. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
I don't see
exactly.
you putting something like. And
Yeah,
all we did was we fixed up a couple rooms and we put some couches in there and let people meet with the doors open, no matter what your problem is, just to get stuff off your chest about your day.
yeah.
And we have a bunch of regulars that come every day to our meetings, and there's some of them are addicts, and some of them have trauma in their past that they're dealing with, and they're trying to learn how to live with trauma. And there's people that just have special needs, and they're frustrated in their day, and they get anxious, they get depressed, and they get frustrated and have anger.
Hmm.
We talk to there's a lot of amazing. One person is in the Special Olympics all the time. She was just in Seattle. Now she's like an alternate for this year's Special Olympics.
Oh, it's amazing.
You know what I mean? Like we get
Yeah,
to hear cool stuff like that, and then like there's a lot of trauma stuff that comes in that people are working through, and but they're figuring it out as they coming in for the first time, being able to talk to people. It's been great to see
yeah.
just the changes in people so far. So I don't care, fuck a degree, I'm not going to get one. I have plenty of experience.
Yeah,
If any of them has a problem with, they can sit in our meetings and listen to us talk, because damn well the only professionals that came to our meetings are like, hey, I'm blah blah blah, and I'm a nurse and I'm here for school just to observe. Those are the only kind of professional caretakers that came to NA and AA meetings.
yeah.
Were the nurses that were going to nursing school and they were required to go to the meetings to observe. Literally, that was the only professional person with a degree that I would see inside those crowds. So yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, yeah, no, exactly. So you're doing this meeting thing, not meeting thing. I don't mean to minimize it.
No, no, no. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
good.
yeah. You started this meeting place, but you also have a podcast studio, and you're having like athletes on. How is that like? Is that just kind of like you trying to broaden your voice to, or like what exactly is the goal of that?
Well, when I was in when I was in addiction, I used to do stand up comedy, and I love talking and writing jokes and make people laugh. And then COVID and all that, and I got sober, so I was taking time off. And then when I was finally feeling comfortable again, I moved, and then COVID happened. So that's why I was like, I want a comedy club, because then I'll be able to do comedy here, and I won't have to travel. And I can just bring people here to do comedy.
Yeah,
And that was kind of the idea behind that. And I love podcasts. All my favorite comedians do podcasts. So I'm always watching them, and I'm always like, I could probably do that, but I'm not going to do it on that. I would do it on something I know and I'm passionate about,
yeah,
which is recovery. Like, and I met a comedian in North Carolina, and we're doing a comedian podcast where we're just going to talk stand-up comedy the entire time and just fuck around.
Oh yeah, it's like
But
Two Bears, One Cave.
That's my introduction to podcasts. I watch them every single Monday.
Yeah.
I was just literally watching a Segura special earlier today. Like him and Bert are my favorite.
Yeah.
Like my podcast studio, I have a machine. I have a Bert one, and then I have one that's Bert, Joe Rogan, Tom, and Ari that look dressed like the Blues Brothers. And I have that on my wall in my podcast studio.
Oh, that's dope. Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, exactly like Two Bears, One Cave. But I was like, if I'm going to do one, I want to do something around that I can speak to, like that I'm really passionate about, which is recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And I love talking to other people about their journey through it and why, like what you talk about at meetings, you know, where were you, what happened, and where are you at now?
Yeah. Have you heard Armchair Expert?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really good one.
Yeah. And he just opened up about relapsing. You know that, right?
No.
He relapsed last September. And he opened up about it after 17 years of being sober.
Who did he talk to about that?
To Zoe, his the person who does the podcast with him, and his wife, Kristen Bell. But yeah, he got so messed up on painkillers. He was doing that movie Chips a few years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where he was like the cop, you know, Chips or whatever. And he was in a motorcycle accident, and then he got prescribed pills again. And he ran out, and eventually, you know, he started doing Vicodin again, then doing Percocets, and Yeah. So he flat out admitted that, you know, like, hey, I was drinking and I relapsed and I'm starting over this past September after like being sober 17 years.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
But that's good for him to actually admit that stuff, though. A lot of people will try to hide it.
I think it's AA. So I think people that have the strong, you know, program, whether they're active or not, they still have that subconscious AA voice.
Yeah.
Like, you're fucking up. Say something. You say something. You're going to kill yourself if you don't say something.
Yeah.
And, you know, I hear that voice all the time. Not anymore because I'm sober and I'm doing meetings. But even when I was drinking sporadically and not even like I said, I was purposely pouring out Twisted Teas laughing. Like, haha, I can pour this out. But, you know, it was dumb.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Oh, excuse me.
But either way, like, now, you know, I don't care about drinking. When I got sober, I didn't plan to stop drinking. I planned to stop doing pills. And then I went 13 months without drinking. And now I've gone more than a year again. And I don't plan on drinking because I stopped again because this time I wanted to stop drinking and I wasn't told I had to stop.
Right.
But my sober date, if anyone asks me, my sober date's still 4/25/18, even though I've had drinks in between it, because you're not taking my sober date from me, because that date to me isn't the date for sobriety. It's a date that my life stopped being unmanageable. You know, my life never became unmanageable when I drank here and there for those 8 months.
Yeah.
You know, my life I didn't go off the rails. I didn't lose a job. I didn't get arrested. You know, I woke up hungover one time and I said, fuck it, I'm done again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So to me, 4/25/18 means it's the day that my life stopped being unmanageable.
It's hilarious to me to hear that, just because as you're saying this, I can actively hear 4 people in my head that want to argue against you, and you know who those people are. Like, you don't know them.
I've already had those arguments, bro.
Yeah, those same people. I can hear it in like I want to put this out there, that I have seen people get out of a car and the needle followed them. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's still in their lap. They forgot to put it away.
Yeah.
Went in and collected a 2-year token. You know what I mean? It's like you were saying earlier that like you weren't allowed to get your chip and all this stuff. What I was taught, and it was one of the greatest things, is that it doesn't matter what the rest of the room thinks or knows. It's your program. It's your life. And why does anyone else give a shit what you do?
Yeah.
And so I commend you for going out and actually saying that and doing that, just because I know those people. Those are the same people that want to keep you out of the rooms and teach you how to do things their way. Mm-hmm. But they're always the ones that are the high stress, angry one. Like
the angry people in sobriety that have been doing it 20 years and they're miserable.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't want to ever be like that. You know, I didn't want to be miserable in sobriety, or else I would keep on using.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm going to be miserable, I'm going to be more high.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so no, I didn't get sober just to be miserable. I'm going to live my life the way I want to, and the
Yeah,
only
for
thing
sure.
is being self-aware and not being my own therapist. Don't be my own pharmacist. Talk to people. Talk to my wife. Talk to my therapist. You know, be open with people and be honest. So that's all I would do. I don't have to go to bed worried about what I lied about today, because I don't have to lie.
Yeah.
And just the fact that you want me to lie about little things, it adds up. Don't tell me that little lies don't add up, because they tell us in therapy little lies do add up. So I'm being told here that you can't do little lies, or else it's going to grow and grow and grow. But you guys are like, no, it's okay to lie and say alcohol, not pills, because everybody else will be offended. Fuck off. Like, I still said pills openly. I never once, when I was like, yeah, I used to drive 2 hours each direction for alcohol because I couldn't find it elsewhere. You really want me to say that in my story? I was driving 2 hours to buy alcohol because I couldn't find it anywhere else. Seriously, there's stores everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, don't. In my story would sound ridiculous. Then I'm gonna sound like a liar. I'm not gonna lie. So I never lied, and I said, and I was like, plus you guys don't even know I use cannabis unless I told you. I was being honest, and I told you. It's not like I come in here, eyes bloodshed, and just like passing out the entire time, going, "Hey man, you know, I'm JD. I'm an alcoholic." No, I don't sound like a fucking stoner when I'm talking. I sound like an adult. Like, I'm here to be sober. Let's have sobriety together.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to touch on the cannabis thing, and then I can let you go. So you went to the rehab in California, and they pretty much, like the way we were talking earlier, they taught you, to like your relationship, they taught you how to use it. How does that still follow you today? Like, in those lessons you learned, like what exactly, I mean, without like giving like the curriculum, or
No,
like
I mean,
whatever, like
even little things that I never even realized. Like, if I smoke sativa, or even when I use sativa, it strains. It's only until about noon, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Then I switch to a hybrid if I'm going to microdose, and I'm using hybrids in the afternoon and the evening, and then indica strains at night. So that indica will knock me out. And I won't use indica in the morning, because to me that's not properly using it, because I'm going to be tired and drag all day. I'm not going to use sativa at night, because that's going to keep me up all night. So it's little things like that. They're like behavior things that I try not to do. But at the same time, I don't ever get like too euphoric. I don't even say high, but I hate getting too high. There's been plenty of times that by accident, trial and error of trying to figure stuff out, that I've gotten ripped and I didn't like it, and it just like, oh, okay, that's way too much. I won't do that again. And because it reminds me of those other feelings.
Yeah.
So I'm just self-aware. It's all about being self-aware and being honest with yourself.
Yeah,
I'm never like going, oh, that's a really good high that I want to get again. It's like, I don't like getting that high anymore.
Yeah, so you kind of have to like build a relationship, it sounds like.
Yeah. And it's just, I'm responsible about it. I'll do some, 10 milligrams in the morning just to wake up and, with my coffee, and 10 milligram pill in the afternoon, and then like 30 to go at night, because that will help me sleep. Because I have had problems with sleep since I was 8. So if I don't use cannabis, then I'm awake the entire night, literally, no matter what. Like, I said to my therapist, like, oh yeah, I'm a night owl and I'm an early bird. She was like, no, you're an insomniac. Like, that's what that is. And I'm like, okay, well, you have your word, I have mine.
Yeah, for sure. All right, JD.
I'll let you go.
Oh, no, you're good. What are you gonna say?
No, but I didn't want to take tramadol. If I didn't use cannabis at night, it was Seroquel or tramadol.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take sleep meds to go to sleep, because I'm like, I feel like I'm hungover in the morning.
Well, not only that, but it's also, after a while, tramadol stops working, and then like you might need to go like up to those triangle ones, and then those things are time machines, and you wake up 2 days later and you have no idea what happened.
I It's not even natural. So if I'm gonna have sleep problems, it's gonna be with weed and nothing else.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, it's early. I gotta go on anyway. I didn't realize the time.
All right, cool. Yeah, so, well, how about you just let everybody know what your podcast name is and where they can reach you up at? And
MJ's, like Michael Jordan, MJ's Progress Not Perfection.
All right.
and just type it into YouTube. It's on YouTube and it's on Spotify and our Facebook. We have all the clips on there too.
All right, cool. And I'll link those all below. And
All right, cool. Thanks, man.
Cool. All right. Hope you have a good day.
Thanks, but I appreciate it.
Easy, buddy.
Yeah, I'll talk to you. See you.